Hey everyone, I just got back from vacation in Georgia. We had a great time, but I wasn't here on Monday, so I'm here now and sending this your way. This week our text is Acts chapter 5. Acts chapter 5, so that's where we're going to be. Another disclaimer, I'm in VBS attire. It is VBS week here at Westside, and we are having a great time serving and ministering to families, and we're just so thankful for all of our volunteers here at Westside helping us out to reach families here in Gainesville. But with all those disclaimers in mind, for this week, the text is Acts chapter 5. Just a quick reminder that if you haven't read the passage yet, I encourage you to go ahead and stop this video, go read the passage, spend some time with it by yourself and the Lord, and then come back and watch the video and you can be ready. But Acts chapter 5 is a fascinating story, and for this week, I want you just to imagine that you're a part of the church. And Luke presents chapters 1 through 4 in a very utopian way. I mean, we see the church and they're doing all of these wonderful things. They're healing people who are hurting. They're going from house to house. They're fellowshipping every day. They're eating together every day. He even tells us on two different occasions in Acts chapter 2 and in Acts chapter 4 that they're sharing all things, that they have all things in common, that they're bringing all of their possessions to the leadership, and then the leadership is distributing those possessions amongst the needy. I mean, it really is this utopian picture of community all the way up through the end of Acts chapter 4. And Acts chapter 4 ends with this guy named Barnabas, and he brings all that he has and he gives it to the disciples, and they distribute it amongst those who are needy. And so imagine being a part of that community. You might be fooled into believing that things are perfect. You might be fooled into believing that somehow your community is different than every other community in the history of the world. And while it certainly was different, we learn very quickly in Acts chapter 5 that it was still very, very broken. And so in Acts chapter 5, we get this tragic story of these two characters known as Ananias and Sapphira. And Ananias and Sapphira, they sell their property, and they pretend, in a way, to bring all of the fruits of what they sold, all of the profit, they pretend to bring it all to the apostles and lay it at their feet so that they can distribute it amongst the needy. But what they're hiding is the fact that they've kept some back, that they aren't surrendering everything to the community, and they're lying. And Peter tells us that they're lying to not just the apostles, but that they're lying to the Holy Spirit. And we get this really tragic story of these two characters whose sin actually leads to their death, leads to their destruction. And it's one of the more abrupt, tragic, maybe horrific, shocking stories in all of the New Testament. And Luke places it right here at the beginning of Acts chapter 5, after we've had 4 chapters of utopian bliss in the community of Jesus. We now have this very tragic and shocking story in Acts chapter 5. And what I think Luke is doing is he's reminding us that this community is still very, very broken. That while they are doing incredible things, and while they're different than any other community in the history of the world, they are still broken and marred by sin. But beautifully, that's not the only thing that Luke tells us in Acts chapter 5. No, he doesn't even skip a beat. The story of Ananias and Sapphira ends, and the very next verse says that the apostles were doing many signs and many wonders in all of the region. Luke puts these two stories, the story of Ananias and Sapphira, shocking, horrific, and the stories of Peter and John and the other apostles performing these miracles right next to each other, and he does that on purpose. And what he shows us is that while the church is still made up of broken people, people who are prone to sin, people who are prone to make a mess of the good thing that God has created, while it's still made up of broken people, God is still able to use them. He's still able to use them. And so as you're telling your story to your group this week, emphasize that polarization of these two stories. Emphasize that contrast that Luke presents. That yes, the church is broken. It is still messy. We are still broken people trying to do life with other broken people. And even in the midst of that, God is still able to use us. He's still able to use us. And so encourage your group, challenge them with that. Make sure to point them to their weekly challenge to be transparent and honest with someone this week, to reveal and be honest about their brokenness and allow God to use it. But that's the story of Acts chapter 5. That's our weekly challenge for the week and our main idea. We hope you have a great time with your group, and we are praying for you, and we will see you soon. Have a good one.